Welcome to another R2 webinar. Backed by popular demand is The Little Things Part 3, a year of the small stuff. Today we're going to look at 6 handy tools in R2 that can make a big difference in your daily operations. Several of these enhancements are your own creations, taken directly from the R2 Ideas portal. The best part, all of these benefits are already included in your R2. To take advantage of these features, make sure to ask our R2 support team to upgrade you today. Let's take a look behind the curtain at the agenda for today. Win big with these small improvements. First thing we'll look at today is the ability to retire multiple assets, followed by a demonstration of non-modal transfer order windows, the ability to print multiple invoices, work order status transitions for you R2 service folks, inline expand and collapse, and finishing off with probability changes beyond quotes. First up on our list today is the ability to retire multiple assets at once. This is a new maintenance area feature that allows you to scan, upload, or select from a list of assets that should be retired en masse. Remarks can be provided for the retired assets, and any processing errors are clearly described. From my R2 Launchpad, I'll navigate to the Maintenance module. You'll need to be an administrator to access this area. The new icon, Retire Assets, is available at the top of the screen. If you've customized your maintenance screen, you may need to use the Screen Designer to add this button back in. From within the Retire Assets window, you have options to upload a file. This is a simple text file that contains a single column with a list of serial numbers you want to retire. Before I upload this, let me show you what's inside this file. Here's what my input file looks like. I have a header labeled Asset ID, followed by each of the serial numbers that I wish to retire. Let's go back and process this file. Here I'll click the Import Assets from File button, and we'll navigate over to where that file was. Now, you can see that not all of the serial numbers in my file appeared in this list. Errors may exist which don't immediately appear, but are logged in the exceptions area. Here you can see the other assets that didn't process and the reason for it. One asset had a status of lost already, and 2 of them were out. Only assets with a status of in can be retired. The next method is for me to select assets from a list. This surfaces the asset search list for your local site. Only assets with a status of in appear. Assets with other statuses, such as out or lost, for example, are filtered out of this screen. From here, I can double-click to select multiple assets that I wish to retire. I'll hit the OK button when I'm done, and those will add into the batch here. The next method is to scan assets directly into the batch screen. Click right here to scan. The focus remains in the Asset ID field, so you can continue scanning all of your physical assets into the batch. When ready, click on the check mark to proceed. R2 confirms that this will retire all assets in the batch. Upon confirming, you'll have the ability to enter remarks that will be distributed to all of the assets that are being retired in this batch. Great. Now you can see that all of these records were successfully processed and the remarks have been put in there. There are a few types of assets that can't be retired from here. Some of those are serial kit assets, assets that are locked to a kit, part assets, non-serial items, and assets on active work orders. All right, let's go and take a look at one of these assets we've just retired. I'll edit this asset, and you'll see that the box for retire has been checked. The screen is largely disabled except for the comments field. And if I click on that comments button, you'll see the remark that I entered, damaged at trade show. Transfer orders in non-modal windows. Special thanks to our R2 Ideas contributors for this one. I know a lot of you in logistics will open several copies of R2 so you can access transfer orders at once. The reason is because R2 would only allow you to open one transfer order at a time. You weren't able to open and minimize multiple transfer orders. This type of window that blocks access to other windows in the background is called modal. That's why we've introduced non-modal transfer order windows. Here, let's take a look. I'm going to go into the warehouse and I'll go to my transfer orders screen at the top here. I'll quickly bring up a list of all my transfer orders, and I'm going to open up the first one and minimize it. Now, even though I'm in the web, you may be using the desktop version, you'll still have this minimize button at the top right here. Now I'm back at my transfer order list, and I can open another transfer order and another. Now again, a little bit of difference between R2 Web and the desktop version. On R2 Web, you can now see all of my different transfer orders down at the bottom here, including a special type and inventory transfer. If you're using the desktop version, you'll see all of these orders down in your sys tray. Print multiple invoices at any time from any invoice search screen. This next feature is great for being able to print multiple invoices ad hoc for a customer or for other reasons. Previously, to print multiple invoices, one had to create a batch of invoices, and this could only be done from within the invoicing module. Now, the feature is available from any invoice search screen. I'll go into the account module here to demonstrate this. From the View menu at the top, I'll select Invoices. Let's say that my customer UBS wanted a copy of their invoices since May of this year. My search is by bill date descending, so it's going to show the most recent invoices at the top. I'll highlight the UBS invoices by holding down the Control button all the way down to the May invoices here. With all of these invoices highlighted, I'll click on the Print button. I'll also accept the default print template here and click on the Print button. I'm using R2 Web, and so the prints appear in my Downloads folder. If you're using the desktop version, these will appear in the R2 Prints or similar folder. Now you can see up at the top right in my Downloads area that has created one invoice PDF for each of the highlighted invoices. And I'm going to bring my Downloads folder into the view here so that you can see each of those invoices that have been created in the folder here. Now this next one is for all you R2 service folks. A very special work order status transition improvement. If you're using R2 service, you'll remember a time when opening a work order meant transitioning through the estimate status to the scheduled status and finally to the open status. Each step of the way you had to address a date pop-up for the timing of each of those statuses. Now this next feature isn't going to take me long to show you, and that's the point. We've shaved several clicks from the process of opening up a work order, more specifically, transitioning a work order from its default status of estimate to the open status. Here, I'll show you. Let me open this work order here. It's in an estimate status. You can see the status up at the top left side here shows estimate. When moving a work order from estimate to open, you must first have a technician or mechanic selected. You'll also want to ensure that an asset or product has been selected to the work order before you proceed. Now here, I'm going to jump over the scheduled status and go directly to open. I'll accept the default date in here. Now you can see the status shows open. My scheduled and my start dates have now been set. And that's it. The work order is open. Next up is inline expanding and collapsing. There are a lot of places in R2 where data rolls up to a single line. Kits, warehouse schedule lists, and order sections, to name a few. These data records are displayed with a plus symbol next to them, indicating that they can be expanded. Here's a straightforward example from our item search screen. Now, I'm going to search for kits because kits are all rolled up. And so every single one of these kits is displayed with a plus next to it, indicating that there's more behind it. Previously, to expand a kit, you had to right-click and select Expand or Collapse, or in some cases, there might be a header icon that was also available for the same. Now, anywhere that you see a plus, you can simply click on it, and it will expand whatever it is that you're looking at. In this case, I can see all of the child items for this kit. Now, let's go take a look at an order for another example. From an order, there were many ways to expand or collapse a kit or a section. Here we're looking at a couple of collapsed order sections. Previously, to expand a section or kit, one had to highlight it and click on the Expand Collapse button at the top, or perhaps even use some of these menu items to expand all or expand all sections. But all of that takes me out of the way of simply clicking on the plus next to each of the sections to be able to view those details within. Last up on our list is an enhancement that focuses on the prospecting aspect of orders, allowing you to develop your R2 sales pipeline more effectively. And that's opportunity probability management. When trying to generate a sales pipeline in R2, it's important to capture the probability of an order closing. To that end, we've introduced a few additional features to the probability tracking. The first ability is to set the probability field on a quote as mandatory. To do that, I'll access the Defaults module. Here on my Defaults record, I've navigated to the Account tab, then to Orders, and finally to the General tab. In this mandatory section, you'll see the very last entry is probability. I've checked it, which means the salesperson must select a valid probability percentage before saving a quote. All right, with this set, let's go back to the order to see the results. Here we're back on a new quote. You'll see I have a few mandatory requirements to satisfy before I can proceed, the probability field being one of them. Here's something else that's new. The probability field starts with blank. Previously, it started with a value. But if we're going to make it required, it has to start as blank and allow the salesperson to select a percentage at that point. Now that I've satisfied the requirements on this quote, I'm going to convert it to a reservation. Note I'm on a reservation screen now, and the probability field is still there. By the way, this is also true if you convert the order to a hold status. Previous versions of R2 removed the probability field from the hold and reservation screens, with the assumption being that the order was already approved by the customer. But things aren't always so straightforward. The reason for this enhancement is that you may need to advance an order to a hold, for example, to hold the equipment while you work to solidify a deal with the customer. If the probability field was removed at this point, you can't manage it beyond the quote. So now it's retained on every order status. Now, please also note that if you start a new reservation, the probability field is there and it's mandatory. You'll still need to select a value. Thank you for joining another installment of our R2 webinar series, The Little Things Part 3. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. Please consider sending any questions and comments to r2info@unibiz.com. Again, that's r2info@unibiz.com. Thank you all.